Have you ever wanted to build your own staircase? Well, same. Neither had I. Until I bought this abandoned house in northern Portugal. It had this stone outbuilding with a flat roof which had great views from the top of it. But there was a problem. There were no stairs linking the potential roof terrace with the ground beneath it. So I decided to build a staircase to fix this, but I had no real idea how to do it. I spent hours online looking for the best way to build it, but perhaps foolishly I ignored most of what I had read and decided to build the staircase my own way. Over the last 6 weeks I've been hauling blocks, mixing up mortar, laying concrete, breaking blocks, washing tiles, cutting rebar and overcoming bad weather. And it's still not fully finished, but I'm going to show you what I've done anyway. I hope you enjoy the video. In the previous video I poured a concrete slab. This will act as a base for the staircase. I also started the blockwork at the bottom row of the stairs. If you missed it, feel free to go back and watch that video first. I mixed sand, cement and water to form mortar, and for this I used a ratio of 4:1. As you can probably tell, block laying is new to me, and through some trial and error I managed to muddle through and get by. I tried to follow some YouTube tutorials as closely as possible, but in certain places you can see I've done things which, well, let's just say shouldn't be repeated. And I should mention that if you are doing this yourself, I'd look at a different video to use as a tutorial. One of the most important things is keeping things level, and in my mind if blocks next to each other were level then there shouldn't be any problems. But making it level was sometimes tricky. Maybe my mortar was too dry, I'm not exactly sure. Over the course of the project I experimented with string lines, 3 different spirit levels, lasers and good old eyesight, and overall I'm fairly happy with the end result. Having laid out most of the first row, I started to doubt my original design. I started to test out a different arrangement of blocks and decided on a different and, in my head, an easier way to do it. Thinking about changing the design for the stairs. So I think if I rotate the blocks 90 degrees in this sort of orientation, it might make things easier with the steps. But before I do that, I need to unload the rebar from the car, drill some holes for the rebar, and then use the epoxy resin chemical anchor stuff and put those in place. These blocks are obviously hollow. Some of them have 2 hollow sections, some of them have 3. What I was thinking of doing, because I've got so much rubble that is quite difficult to get rid of unless I pay someone to get rid of it, I was thinking of filling all of them with rubble each row as I go up, and then filling even the lower sections where there otherwise would just be air, as one way of getting rid of all the rubble that I have. Load of broken tile like this, concrete, all sorts really. It won't get rid of that much of it, but maybe enough to clear the small area in the courtyard. After a bit more research, I realised that the rebar I had in place was inadequate. I had used the leftovers from other projects and was advised to beef it up with 12mm rebar and use it in more places. I bought some new rebar, cut them to size and fixed them into the slab after filling the drilled holes with chemical anchor resin. The position of the stairs was limited in one direction because of an old vine, which we had to trim down because the metal arbor supporting it was close to collapse. We hope to train the vine over a new arbor in the future, but for now it acts more like a tree. And I could have pushed the stairs closer to it, but as you will see later in the video, this would have only resulted in a longer plinth. As part of my new design, I added a row of blockwork in the middle. This would support the perpendicular blocks that would form the steps. The design of the stairs uses a plinth or large first step, and that is what I'm building now. This is what users would step up onto before turning 90 degrees and continuing their way upwards. To strengthen the stairs, each of the hollow blocks containing the rebar were then filled with concrete. I also filled the blocks that form the plinth or the first step. Being the first step, I thought it could potentially receive the most abuse, so it made sense to me to make them as solid as possible. This corner block broke apart, so I clamped together some timber battens and filled it with concrete to see if I could glue it back together, which luckily seemed to do the trick. On this side of the outbuilding is an existing opening which I plan to put a window in the future. To prevent the new staircase from covering over this opening, I had to position the stairs in a certain place and basically had to design everything around this window. With a bit more experimentation, I finally decided that this was the best way to build the stairs. It meant that the void under the first 5 or so steps would be inaccessible, but space here was limited anyway, and wouldn't have really made a good storage space. It also meant that I could avoid using any formwork or additional rebar to pour a concrete slope to build the steps onto. Something that I had seen on YouTube and was the original plan, but then decided against it. I filled the plinth up with rubble and finished it with a thin layer of concrete on top. This won't be the finish, but will allow me to walk on it and use it for the time being. Once the plinth was finished, I could then start on the first step, and decided to use a string line here. I obviously wasn't entirely convinced, as this was the only time I used one on this build. I think if I was building a wall instead of a staircase, I would have persevered, but got rid of it and decided to use the spirit levels instead. Coming at it from a wrong angle. The weather was another thing I had to deal with. I'm pretty slow at laying the blockwork, so the project took longer than planned, and adding in delays for bad weather extended the timeline even further. Filling all of the voids with concrete seemed like a bit of a waste of material, so I decided to fill the voids with broken tile and rubble. To prevent anything growing through the steps, I washed the rubble and tile to remove as much organic matter as possible. I'm not sure if this was a necessary step, but knowing how vigorously plants grow here, I think it couldn't hurt. Third step is in place. What I'm going to be able to do is save this as a window, so the next riser is going to start about here in line with this vertical edge of the stonework, so then I can make this into a little window that looks out. The window's facing north, so it's not going to get that much sunlight anyway. But one of the benefits of doing a steep staircase means that I can keep the window open, and if I had it shallower, then I'd have to start the staircase further back and probably obscure the window. Over the following weeks, I got into more of a rhythm. Now that the method was fixed, I stopped overthinking and just focused on mixing, laying and leveling. And the stairs started to look the part, and I was slowly reaching the top. To state the obvious, the number of blocks required and rubble infill at each level reduces. This, paired with some new enthusiasm, definitely helped things speed up. But I don't think I'll win any awards for attractive block work. The plan is to render all of this anyway, so don't worry, it will be hidden. Hello, I'm going to take a quick break from building the stairs behind me to talk to you about this week's sponsor, the Woodworkers Guild of America. The Woodworkers Guild of America is an online community of skilled and passionate woodworkers. It's a place where members can enhance their craftsmanship, explore new techniques, and access a wealth of step-by-step woodworking projects. You might remember in a previous video I built a bed for our spare bedroom, and that experience has given me the confidence to start building more furniture out of timber, and this resource is definitely going to be helpful. The website offers woodworking instructions, ideas and information, and is constantly being updated with new premium videos. I'm currently watching the videos in the furniture making section and have already learnt some new techniques which I'm looking forward to applying. And the first 1,000 subscribers to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Woodworkers Guild of America for only $1.49. This offer is only available to new members only, and definitely something I think is worth checking out. Okay, back to the video and let's get the stairs finished. Another idea of mine was to try and reuse these concrete beams. I needed to cut them down to size, but annoyingly my larger angle grinder wasn't working. But with enough chiseling and grinding down, I managed to get two smaller, fairly neat beams for the landing. You comfortable there? So this is currently what the stairs look like. I've got up to the top landing and I'm using these concrete beams, and those are the beams that used to be on the top of the shed, which used to be here, which has been since demolished. And we did that maybe a year ago now. And then I'm putting the terracotta blocks in between the beams, like most of the floors in the house. Today I'm going to fill in this bit, put a block there and a block here, fill in this, and then eventually this will have concrete and rebar in, and that will form the landing at the top of the stairs. I'm not sure if these terracotta infill blocks are supposed to be cut like this, but as I'm planning on adding a reinforced concrete slab above, I was confident that they would do the job. If you hadn't already guessed, these were the same blocks I took off the roof almost a year ago. It was soon time to cut the final concrete blocks for the landing. I wish I could say that my technique had improved more, but I still haven't mastered it and mostly relied on luck to see where the block actually split. One of the last things to do was to pour concrete on the landing. I used this blue foam insulation I had spare to act as formwork to hold the concrete in while it cures. I also added some steel reinforcing mesh and some rebar to make it as strong as possible. I used what I had lying around, which included leftovers from other projects. By now you can see that the stairs are pretty much finished. They work like, well, stairs. The aim was to get you up to the roof terrace without using a ladder, which it definitely achieves. Going up and down isn't as much of a struggle as I feared. The rise on each step is around 260mm, which is far higher than most stairs, but the treads are actually deeper than most, which does help mitigate the steepness. The overall angle of the stairs is around 38 degrees because of this, which is actually 4 degrees less than the maximum recommended. There's still lots of work to be done to get them looking their best. I'll be adding a handrail for safety, rendering the blockwork, waterproofing and finishing the treads, and I'll be adding a door to the understair cupboard. For now though, I think I need to prioritise some other projects, and I'll get back to finishing these stairs off another time.